Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, 5:30 PM. And with a quorum of members present, I will call the Finance Committee to order. Item number one on our agenda this evening is the minutes of the previous meeting. That's from October 22nd, 2024. Is there any discussion? I see a motion from Hinke. Second? Is there a second? Oh, second from Gisselman. Any discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Item number two, discussion and possible action on approval of the third amendment of the American Rescue Plan Act Catholic Charities Subrecipient Agreement. And there was a message in here from in our packet from Catholic Charities that they have not used, I guess, all of the funding we've allocated for them, and they're looking to kind of shift things around a little bit for 2025. So if I'm correct on that, they wanted to move approximately $80,000 from their day services to warming center services, and then they expect that would be able to provide day service until May of next year, and the warming service should go from May until October. And we got Tammy Stratz here, so can you fill us in a little bit on that?
Yes, thank you. So I brought this to the committee last month before. And we talked about the possible extension, but then there were some concerns about the activities that were not happening over there. So we brought the resolution back actually the agreement back to Public Health and Safety and had a discussion there. And we revised what we were looking at doing. We were looking at, instead of extending it until 2025, we are going to reduce the amount of money that we are sending to them by no longer paying for the warming center, because they typically pay for the warming center from November 1st until April 31st of next year. But we would continue to pay for the day services until April of next year. We want to make sure that they have those options available to them during the winter months. But there was concerns about what activities were being offered there and what wasn't being offered. So Public Health and Safety agreed that we should discontinue the additional funding and just have it go through, pay for the day center until the end of April 2025. That being said, there'll be monies left over. And if I'm looking at Marianne's chart, it'll end up being, if I'm reading this right, it'll be about $195,889 that will be available to reallocate in the ARPA money.
Okay. And that was from the total amount that we've allocated to Catholic Charities of $589,120. So.
Correct.
All right. Any questions on that?
But we are continuing to, for their winter services.
So for the warming center, the overnight services, the ARPA funds was not paying for that because we just were asking them to stay open all year round. Their current or their original programming offered the nighttime services during the winter months. So the ARPA just picked up the summer.
Okay, thank you.
And then so the funding that we're going to allocate would be to continue day services until April.
Right. And we averaged what we've been paying them per month and gave them a little bit extra just in case. I know they were understaffed for a while, but my understanding is they did hire someone, so we want to make sure that there is enough money in there, but yet not so much that we lose it. So that's how we came up with how much we needed to keep them going. And I believe that's what that dollar amount where it says estimated total cost, the 221, 279. Because Marianne and I were going back with numbers.
Yeah.
So that's that's the way I'm reading it. Is that correct? Okay.
Okay. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Motion from Gisselman, second.
I'll second.
Second from Hinkie. Further discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. All right, thank you. And then that brings us to item number 3, discussion and possible action on ARPA funding. And we are getting towards the bitter end of the, of ARPA. We got to have contracts signed before the end of the year and the rest, so the balance of money allocated. So why don't you
Yes.
tell us where we're at, Mary Ann?
So I've been working with the departments to get these numbers updated. And if you recall, at a previous meeting, we authorized funding 2 triaxle vehicles to ensure that we had all of our funds encumbered, and that was about $807,000. So right now, because we know we're going to underspend on some line items, we're over encumbered by about $790,000. But when we look at the rest of the projects that are still open, we look at the Catholic Charities, we look at 2 specific utility projects. One is corrosion control. That project had $170,000 budgeted, which was really for testing, and they don't believe that they'll be able to get a contract in place for that prior to December 31st, 24. So that would be something that, we would use the triaxle purchases for. Also, the PFAS treatment design looks like it's going to come under budget, as we just discovered, or just discussed Catholic Charities, and then ERP looks like we're going to have money left over. So when we look at all of those, it looks like we'll have about 500 or 600 of that 789,000 actually used on those triaxles. So we were talking that maybe we'd actually want to obligate yet another vehicle just to be on the safe side, because when you look at the number of positions between police and fire for the 2 years, 25, 26, if we did experience some significant vacancies, we could have additional savings that would result in us being under encumbered. So DPW was coming up with some other vehicles that maybe we could say we were encumbering from ARPA. The value of using motor pool is, if it's not used for ARPA, we would use motor pool to fund the project. So it's got sort of a built-in other funding mechanism. It's really about issuing the PO before the end of the year and saying you're earmarking ARPA for those funds. Later, you would do then a budget mod that said, we're not going to use ARPA. And I think the other value is there's a little bit of delay on the actual receipt of some of these vehicles. So by that time, you would know, did we experience vacancies in police and fire? Do we have the additional savings? If the answer was yes, you would use ARPA funds for this other equipment that you had signed the PO on. If the answer was no, it would be funded through motor pool.
Okay.
But it's really just to ensure that we're not under encumbered.
Okay, so just to be clear, these are vehicles that we are scheduled to purchase anyway.
yes.
So we're not like buying extra stuff.
Exactly.
Using the ARPA funding.
Yeah.
We can over allocate on the front end, and then between now and 2026, if we don't use all that money, we still have a means in order
Yes.
to recover that through the purchase of
Right.
those vehicles.
Right. So for example, the triaxles, those will be received in the beginning of 2026. So by that time, we'll have plenty of knowledge of whether we had experienced the vacancies.
Okay.
And so our goal, like I said, is really the best practices to over encumber so that we save, so that we're able to spend the ARPA
Yeah.
dollars.
So
And-
we can
Yep.
recover as much of that money, because after January 1st, we're not able to issue
Right.
any new contracts.
Exactly.
So it's,
And I think DPW is working on selecting the vehicles, so we would be able to bring that back to the next meeting.
Okay.
And we'd like it then to go to finance the same time, if that would be agreeable to the committee.
Yep.
If you like that strategy. Well, it would go to finance and council the same night. So you'd have specific vehicles at that time.
Just quick question, is there anything else that we need more urgently
Oh.
that we could put that money towards?
Well,
That's
and
my
I
only
think the
question.
other, when we look at the ideal option is it's got to be something that we can get contract signed on a relatively speedy fashion. And so again, these are, we can go out for bid quickly on these. We can issue the PO and we know we're going to accomplish it by the end of the year, where some of these other things are more questionable. But we just did, the pre-quals for the Cherry Street lift station. Again, if it's a public construction, you have to advertise so many times and leave so much time for people to put their specifications together, which then creates kind of some back-end time complications.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
if somebody, other than Public Works, needed that money more urgently, not just Public Works, but were there other departments that had an urgent need that would,
No.
because we've kind of shifted a lot of this money towards Public
Yeah.
Works, and that's why I'm asking if there's
Sure.
other departments that urgently need something.
Or, actually, it's shifted to motor pool,
Yeah.
so. But
And we did do the transfer pursuant to the agreement to the CDA for the housing. Well, just as long as you, maybe consensus that you feel comfortable with that strategy, and like I said, we'll bring a specific resolution with specific equipment identified to to the next meeting.
I think just at this point, just consensus to bring back something.
Right.
Like that, so would be enough, because then we can make a motion
Yep.
next month, or next meeting, so. All right, anything else on ARPA? That's, okay. That's easy. Item number 4, a discussion and possible action of a 3% COLA, that's cost of living allocation, or cost of living for non-represented employees. And we talked about this at HR yesterday, and now it's on the finance agenda. And I think the fiscal, we weren't, when we were discussing it in HR, we weren't quite sure of what the fiscal impact would be, but I see that it's, in the resolution here tonight, it's going to be approximately $450,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And is there any discussion on that? Alder Henke?
And this also says it's in the budget.
Yes.
It's in the current proposed budget.
Yes, So then this would go to council at the next meeting.
At the next meeting, yeah. But this 3% was baked into the
It is.
2025
Yes,
budget, so
it is.
we wouldn't have to create an additional impact.
Right.
Right.
Guess I would move to approve the 3%
Okay.
cost of living.
Motion from Hinkie, a second from Tierney. Any other discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Okay. And item number 5, discussion and possible action approving a professional services sole source request for the Business Campus Trail Real Estate Services. And I believe this, we got Eric coming up front, but this is related to the reconstruction project along West Stewart Avenue and 72nd Avenue, is that correct?
Right, yeah, the trail, the east-west connector trail out in the business campus. So MSA is doing the design and the administration of that project for us. And with this, we have to follow the eminent domain procedures because it has DOT funding in it. And so it's kind of a long, lengthy process, right? Determining value of property and reaching out to the property owners and making proposals and the negotiations and all of the things that go along with that. So on our other projects with that, we hire outside consultants now, MSA does this, and so we asked them for a cost on this. The cost seems reasonable based on the project, how many owners that they're gonna have to work with, and that's based on other projects that we've done as well. So, and it makes a lot of sense for us administratively wise to have the same professional services group doing all of the work.
Any questions on that? Alder Hinkie?
Do we own most of the business, most of the business park where this trail is going? Or I guess how many owners?
No, I don't know all of them, but, you know, we'll be putting the project plat together and everything else with all the difference. There's both permanent easements as well as temporary easements and stuff as well, but it's not all city-owned. no.
Is this part of the path that doesn't follow a road really? It kind of
Correct.
goes through the middle of the block?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yep.
All right. If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion. Motion from Tierney, second from Hinkie. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? That carries. Okay, thanks, Eric. And then we're at the end of our agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion from Hinkie, a second from McElhaney. All those, and then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Council starts in 45 minutes.